G'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow, and in this video we're going to run through how to clean your mass airflow sensor. The things you're going to need for this one is pretty straightforward. Essentially just a couple of screwdrivers, one flathead and one Phillips head, and as well as that you're going to need some mass airflow sensor cleaner. Now it's really important that you actually use the proper stuff. It is a little bit more expensive, but it does the job. And the thing is, especially with the hot wire type of mass airflow sensor, you really don't want to damage it, and using anything that's really oily based like WD-40 or brake cleaner or anything like that can damage the sensor. So you want to steer clear of that. Get yourself some actual mass airflow sensor cleaner. Now a mass airflow sensor is essentially a sensor that's used to determine the rate of air that's going into your engine. So essentially it's pretty easy to find. You want to find where your air intake is. Now in the case of the Jeep that we have here, we have a snorkel and air's coming in through here, through our air box and then into the engine. So essentially you want to look for, there's two in this case, but the main one is this mass airflow sensor, which is right here. So sometimes your intake might be on the other side of the engine over here somewhere, depending on what type of car it is. So essentially you just want to look for this type of hose just here, which will be connected to your airbox. And inside here is where your filter is. So essentially if you just look for that, you will easily be able to find it. There'll be a sensor just like this guy that's after the airbox, before the pipe that goes into the intake of the engine. So once you've located it, what does it do? So essentially an airflow sensor, or a mass airflow sensor, is designed to measure the amount of oxygen that's going across it and into the engine. It sends all that data back through to the engine's ECU, and that's what the engine determines how much fuel it wants to mix in, so you get your air and fuel ratios correct. Sometimes things like if your engine's a little bit is missing, if it's got a rough idle, or in really bad cases if it doesn't start at all, this is a really nice place to start when you're doing your diagnostic. And more than anything else, it's probably an important thing to clean every now and again, every service or two, just to make sure that you're running as optimally as possible. Because things like, if it gets too dirty, things like your fuel economy is going to suffer as well. So keeping this guy nice and clean is always the way to go. Alright, so the next step is just to remove it. Now on this particular car we just have a couple of Phillips head screws and a separate clip here. So for me, I've found the best thing to do is to actually remove the sensor itself to start with, and then work on removing the clip. Sometimes you'll need to remove the actual airbox, but for this particular engine it's not necessary. You can just basically take these guys off and pull the whole thing out. There we go. Now it's really important, you can see in there's our hot wire. So this particular type is a hot wire mass airflow sensor. The other type is a vane, but most will be this style, and you can see in there the actual wires themselves. The next step though, before we have a closer look at this guy, is to pull this other guy up. Sometimes you'll need your flathead screwdriver for that scenario there. Your car is probably going to have something similar, but essentially if you have troubles, get your flathead screwdriver underneath here, flick it up, and then it should pop out pretty easily, just like that. Here's our mass airflow sensor. Now yours may look something similar or slightly different, but they're all reasonably the same, especially those with the hot wire. So you'll be able to see in here, there's the actual wires themselves in there. So they're really, really fine wires, and I guess the key is not to damage those or touch them. Now for this particular one it's quite good because it's got a fair casing over it, but how this works is, if you imagine there's sort of the pipe of your intake and it sits straight down in there, so all the air coming in rushes through this and takes a measurement. There you go, out the back hole there, but essentially takes a measurement after the air's rushing through it. So pretty cool little device, pretty simple really, but also pretty integral to making sure that your car runs well. So to clean, it's just a matter of grabbing your spray, and you can see on this one they'll come with a little tubey doobie here. Now really important you don't jam that down inside there. You don't want to touch those wires with anything. So essentially you just want to give it a good 10 to 15 sprays, and you'll see this one's actually pretty clean already, but as you go you'll start seeing the wires themselves getting nice and shiny. Don't go too overboard and use a whole can. The can in this particular type, it's a CRC, does only recommend 10 to 15 odd sprays there. So I mean, it's up to you depending on how dirty it is, but I mean if you're doing this regularly, the wires should come clean quite quickly, and you can see in there for this one in particular, we're getting nice and shiny in there and it looks quite good. So from here it's just putting it all back together. Alright, so next step is just essentially putting it all back together. You can see that we have our nice clean wires there that we have cleaned, and they're all looking pretty good. So it's a matter of just popping it back in there, screwing the screws down, and then once you've done that, reconnecting the wire connection. Alright, once you're back together and you've got your clip down pat, we want to make sure that the locking pin there as well is in place and it's in nice and tight. After that, you just want to fire up the engine and make sure that you still have a running engine. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Click here if you want to subscribe to the channel. You'll find lots of other videos showing you through how to do all sorts of stuff, just like this one and also this one. Other than that, I hope you have a great day. Remember to hit the subscribe button, it really helps support the channel, and I'll see you next time.